Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Mackenzie Walsh, and I'm a marketing manager here at Remind. Today, we'll be talking about how you can activate engagement and harness the communication that's already happening across your community with the Remind plan. Now, before we actually begin today's presentation, I do want to run through a few quick housekeeping items to get us started. First, you can see today's webinar by you can access today's webinar by either phone or mic and speaker on your computer, as you can see in audio settings at the right-hand corner of your screen. Keep in mind that you can ask a question at any time throughout today's webinar simply by clicking that Q&A button, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. Also want to note that we will be recording today's webinar. You can request this recording during the exit poll as we conclude the presentation, along with today's presentation slides, additional information about Remind, and other follow-up items. Now, without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce today's presenter, Eric Reichenbacher, Account Executive here at Remind.
Awesome, thank you so much, Mackenzie. I'm also a former high school teacher, and I've worked with hundreds of teachers and school district administrators around the country. And I'm really excited today to share more with everyone on the call about how Remind's modern communication platform has helped them activate engagement across their schools and districts. So we'll first just go over a quick rough agenda here. We'll first start with the problem we're here to solve at Remind. Then we'll go into a little bit about what Remind is, our free account features, and compare that with our Remind plan features. And then we'll wrap everything up with some Q&A. So feel free, like Mackenzie said, to ask those questions. Fire away. So let me dive into and discuss some of the problems and challenges that school and district administrators are facing. You might be here because you might be an administrator that recognizes that better engagement in your community leads to positive outcomes. However, it can be really difficult to find actionable ways to bring consistent, meaningful engagement to everyone in your community. There's so many things that we need to, as educators, communicate about, and such a wide array of audiences, from attendance notifications, conference reminders, school-wide announcements, permission slips, positive notes home. At the same time, traditional forms of communication just aren't working. 40% of phone calls go to voicemail. Only 33% of those voicemails are ever listened to. And if you're sending out emails a lot, only 22% of emails are ever open. This is according to nationwide research from Pew Research. As a former high school teacher, these definitely ring true to me, and I know many of you live this on a daily basis. On top of this, national policies are pushing schools and districts to take steps to improve. Every Student Succeed Act now requires regular, two-way, meaningful communication between families and teachers. But there is a glimmer of hope. Parents and students are opening their text messages, and Remind is a text-first solution. 99% of text messages are open nationwide, and 90% of text messages are read within the first 3 minutes of receipt. So faced with some of these challenges that I mentioned, Remind helps make it easier for admins to support regular, meaningful two-way communication in their schools and districts. I want to hop in now and discuss a little bit about what Remind is and talk a little bit about our free account features. We recognize many of you are school and district admins who have heard of your teachers using a Remind free account. So we'll first quickly go over a little bit of that free account, which is used by about 50% of K-12 teachers in the United States. In a nutshell, Remind is a communication platform that helps educators reach students and parents where they are. And I think there's basically 4 main reasons teachers really love the free account. It's one, it provides seamless one- and two-way communication. It's available on any device. You don't need a smartphone even. End users can always receive and respond entirely via SMS text, making regular communication really easy. Messages are also meaningful and directly related to student learning. We have translation and attachment features as well. All messages come from protected phone numbers. So educators and admins sending out messages aren't sharing their personal contact information, making it easy to build and strengthen relationships that's so important. On the free account, it is largely opt-in, so you do need to create an account and have parents and students join. From there, Remind is available on mobile app, text message, email, and the website, so you can send messages wherever you are. It supports file attachments, including photos, documents, voice notes, to get out that you're really engaging content, and also makes it easy to share educational content through connections with Google Classroom, G Suite, Microsoft, Quizlet, and more. Remind also provides translation to 90 different languages, and you can schedule messages later through our office hours feature. Because of some of these reasons, again, Remind is used by about 50% of teachers in the US, currently in about 95% of public school districts. So most of you on the call today probably know or have heard of some teachers or have some teachers in your district or schools that currently already use Remind. I want to now transition into and compare the free account of Remind with the Remind plan. From the free account usage that already exists at many of your schools and districts, leaders can harness and leverage this existing communication to bring consistent, meaningful engagement to every class and school. I like to think of communication throughout a district as a pyramid. Picture the old kind of food pyramid. A lot of the daily communication takes place here at the class level, and where a lot of the Remind communication is already taking place. On top of that, there might be weekly messages going out as mass messages throughout the school. And on the very top, really important mass messages coming maybe on a less frequent basis from district administrators, things like notifications about closures, events, and attendance. So the Remind plan has 5 additional buckets of features that make it really distinct from the free account. So I want to run through each of these one by one, but I'm going to dive into a few of them a little bit in more detail. And please let us know if you have any questions there. Mackenzie looks like we've got some maybe coming in.
Yeah, definitely.
So the first additional feature of our Remind plan is school-wide and district-wide messaging. So kind of in the middle and top band of district-wide communication. District and school leaders can send out mass messages that reach everyone in their school communities. We also have rostering via SysSync. And Mackenzie, with all the districts I've worked with, this seems to be one of the biggest value adds. With rostering, districts can automatically create accounts and classes with data from their school information systems to reach all stakeholders, instead of having teachers create their own classes and waiting for parents to sign up. This, we've seen in our data, has led to a 4.6 times increase in adoption compared to districts that don't roster.
You know, actually, Eric, we just had a question come in, which I think is a good one, just given the rostering theme here. Do we integrate with Skyward?
Yes, definitely. Skyward is
Great.
One of the most popular school information systems in the country. We do work with them. And we integrate with school information systems in a couple ways. Clever, we have a Clever Sync, where data is transferred via Clever, and that's a free third-party solution for districts. And we also have a Direct Sync, where data is transferred via an SFTP sync. That happens on a nightly basis. What's really nice about that is that if a student moves classes, the teacher doesn't need to be managing that within Remind, giving time back to instruction for them. Yeah, that's a great question.
Great, thanks so much.
Definitely. So that tends to be one of the main reasons that districts roll out Remind district-wide. Understanding and building off of the existing engagement that's already taking place organically in their districts, they can roll out Remind district-wide and activate engagement in every classroom with clubs, coaches, sports teams, and also for mass school and district-wide messaging. Third, here we have administrator visibility into communication. I like to think that you can't improve what you don't measure. And I know as educators, you're measuring a lot of things. One thing that can be really difficult to have insight and visibility into, but that we all know is so important and why we're here today, is communication. So we do have a couple of ways to measure and track engagement, as well as oversight and controls to protect your community. All messages in Remind are archived, and district admins can access these message archives for everyone in the organization. District and school leaders can also, as I said, put data behind their communication goals. And I'm actually going to go into the product here in a little bit and give a sneak peek of what you will have access to in your school and district admin console. Fourth, in the Remind plan, we have some additional teacher tools, including longer messages. You might have heard your teachers coming up against a 140 character limit. That is a limitation on the free account. That is increased to much longer message capabilities on our school and district plans. And finally, to round out the Remind plan, it is supported with training and priority support resources for your school and district.
Awesome, Eric. Well, before we jump into the next slide, we've had a ton of questions come in, which is fantastic. First question actually has to do with our Translate feature. Does Remind provide a translation feature for ELL families?
Yes, definitely. Remind provides translation, which is powered by Google Translate, and lets you translate messages as a sender into 90+ languages. The Remind app on the recipient's end can also be available in 6 languages: so Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, simplified Chinese, and of course English. So that is a great question, and I work with a lot of districts and schools here in California that take great advantage of that feature to bridge the gap between home and school, which sometimes exists. It's a great question.
Wonderful. One other question before we jump into the next slide. Back to rostering for a second, actually. Brandon, great question here. What happens when parents change their phone numbers? More specifically, if we update the phone number in Aries, will the parent automatically have their old number removed and a new number added in? So I guess, yeah, would love for you, Eric, to talk a little bit more about that nightly sync and what that really means.
Yeah, so definitely the nightly sync updates the parent contact information as it exists in the school information system. So again, if that parent, if that student moves classes, the student is that's updated in Remind as well, and parent contact information is also updated.
Great.
It's a great question. Yeah, this is I think this is one of the biggest differences going from, on the free account, a purely opt-in user managed system that, you know, is good to get started. I talk with a lot of teachers and ask them, okay, how many parents are you actually able to get sign up? Because they have to, you know, go out and get parents to text in this code or have them opt into the free account. It's typically about 30% or so if you're really pushing out your code and trying to get people to join. But of course, with the SysSync, you know, and we know that the numbers and contact information might not be always perfect there, but it does help you get much closer to that 100% instead of relying entirely on user opt-in.
Absolutely.
It's a great question. Awesome. Well, I just want to continue here. I want to make sure we get into the a quick demo in product here in a second. One other, I think, main reason that districts and schools really prefer the SysSync instead of the user opt-in is their ability to reach even those hardest to reach families. And I like to go back to the experience on the free account. It's oftentimes the parents that you need to reach the most that are not, unfortunately, coming to the back to school night or not getting that paper flyer in their student's backpack about signing up for Remind. So all those great messages that are being sent out on the free version, they might not be reaching. So the School Information System Sync really helps connect and reach the hardest to reach families. You can also see, I should mention, with each message, you get a message summary. So you can actually see who's read that message, who was delivered to via app, and if there were any errors, and you can actually clean that information up in your school information system. So a really nice positive feedback loop there to your school information system.
Right, and a great way to really measure that communication, to your point about being able to track exactly what's going on, who is receiving those messages.
Definitely. I want to dive in a little bit more into the third feature set I mentioned there, oversight and controls. This allows districts to protect their community and measure engagement. Remind is also, I should mention, if folks are familiar with iKeepSafe, Remind is iKeepSafe certified for FERPA and COPPA compliance. But let me jump in now to a quick sneak peek of the admin console you would have access to with the Remind plan. This provides qualitative and quantitative data to empower school and district leaders to improve community engagement over time and see stats on each message sent, as I mentioned. So don't forget to request your school and district stats in the exit poll and ask about accessing your school and district's admin console.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, on that note, we did have a question come in around, can I see current Remind usage for my district? And yes, absolutely. If you're interested in seeing the numbers behind number of free users at your organization who might be using Remind, you can certainly request that in the exit poll. So
excellent. Great. Yeah, that's a great question. One of the main advantages of Remind is it doesn't take a lot of training for most districts that want to roll it out district-wide. There's already a great existing organic baseline usage throughout the district. So sometimes I know there is a hesitance to quote unquote roll out a new tool or provide a new package to teachers that they're not familiar with. They're sometimes can be fatigued with a lot of new systems. I understand that. I've sat through a lot of PDs in my day. Remind is, for many teachers, not a new system. Providing the features of the school and district plan merely enhances what they're already doing. So again, a quick run through of the admin console here. On the right side, as you can see, I have access to a stream of recent announcements, more qualitative data. As a school or district administrator, I might not have the ability to get into the different classes and hear what's going on in all of those classrooms throughout my school and district. This allows me an awesome sneak peek into what's happening there, all the engagement that's taking place. I can see pictures, links, videos, attachments, really engaging content being sent out that's being sent directly to parents and students primarily via text message. Over on the left side is going to be kind of more of a front page data, if you will, on communication that's happening throughout my school. In this case, I'm on the school admin console, but I could click and have this rolled up to my entire district as well. I can see over the week, month, and year who the most active teachers were in my school. I can even download a full report there. And I can see that just yesterday, 528 messages were delivered on Remind in my school. So great job, teachers. I can see how that tracks over time as well by clicking in my statistics tab and seeing, okay, over the last year, actually 238,000 messages were delivered. So many districts are actually creating goals around communication, getting really data-driven on their parent engagement and communication efforts for the very first time, being empowered to do that through statistics provided through Remind.
One quick question that Andy just asked, which I think is a good one while we're on this on the screen. If we implemented the district-wide plan, would existing teacher accounts merge without losing existing classes and groups? You know, obviously, beauty of the individual accounts is that these teachers can organically create groups on their own. What happens when a district then purchases the Remind plan?
Yeah, great question, Andy. We definitely don't want to make existing teachers restart. They will not have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually merge their existing accounts with their accounts generated from the school information system. And as soon as the district rollout is conducted,
Mm-hmm.
those classes that are linked to your school already automatically fall under the district umbrella, and the district has oversight of those existing classes. Let's say you guys roster over the summer. So it's common for districts to roster all of the classes over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
A teacher is going to come back to school and actually get an email that says claim your classes. If they click on that, they'll be brought to a modal where they can actually see all of the classes that have been generated through this SIS sync. They can claim those classes, and they can actually merge and put people over from existing classes that they already have, or choose to archive those classes that they had from a previous year. So that's a great question. We definitely don't require folks to start all over. We want to build off of the existing communication. Yeah.
Great.
So I don't want to go too in depth, but definitely reach out to us afterwards in the exit poll to request access and to your district's data and access to the admin console as well.
One other quick question that came up that is worth addressing as well, is the Remind plan available for higher education organizations? Answer is yes, absolutely. Of course, we started off in K-12 and are expanding very quickly into the higher education space as well. So even though we have been focusing on the school and district side of the house quite a bit, we have a ton of higher education usage as well. Would definitely recommend requesting that information as part of the exit survey.
It's a great question, yeah. Before we get into some more question and answer,
Mm-hmm.
I want to just hit on some of our additional features. So in addition to that, the robust base plan, school, district, and higher education institutions, they can also customize their plan with additional add-ons, most of which are at the top of that communications pyramid, so the district-wide features. The first additional feature includes advanced messaging, and this has kind of 3 sub-features. So automated messaging automatically allows schools and districts to send messages to students and parents based on the data from the student information system. One of the most popular use cases for this is attendance. So you can set up a daily recurring absence notification based on who was absent or even tardy that day in your school information system.
Mm-hmm.
This information can also be customized. So part of the advanced messaging feature set includes customized messaging. So think of a mail merge. You can, many parents might have a couple students in the district. They probably want to know which student was absent or tardy that day, and you can fill in that information as well as the periods they missed, the total number of absences they've had over the school year as well. And for messages that are not maybe recurring on a daily basis, more ad hoc, one-off messages, you can also send message by role and by student ID to reach exactly who you need to in your school or district. Some use cases here are perhaps letting juniors and seniors know about graduation requirements and notifying parents of students who haven't turned in immunization forms, so those one-off messages. The second additional feature here includes our LMS integrations. This makes content sharing easier and allows districts and schools to maximize their technology investments. We actually just had a webinar solely on this topic, so please reach out. We can share a detailed overview and slides on that if you're interested. Next, we also have urgent messaging. This is really important for those urgent situations that unfortunately do come up every now and then where you need to reach everyone in your community. This also supports robocalls. Robocalls will be made as a fallback for anyone who cannot be reached by text or app notification. So you can be confident that you're reaching everyone in your community and provide an open line of communication to follow up with administrators or teachers. Finally, we do have voice calls to put all of your communications in one place. So you can send text messages, app notifications, emails, and now also one-to-one phone calls on Remind. Using your cell phone to make calls while keeping your personal number private. So the parent or student never sees your personal number, but by tapping their name on the app, you can have a direct one-to-one phone call with them.
Yeah, and actually, we just had a question come in from Denise. What's the best way to encourage teachers to use Remind? Some are older and text messaging isn't their thing. I haven't mandated using this for that reason. It sounds like voice calls would be a really great fit for that reason. Still, you know, anonymizing that line of communication between teacher and parents and students, while, you know, being able to communicate via voice call as opposed to text message. That's a really great question.
That is a good question. Yeah, and I will also say that Remind is incredibly easy to use. I think the fact that 50% of teachers in the US, many of which will self-identify as not being very tech savvy at all. We like to say if you can text, you can use Remind.
Absolutely.
If those teachers are already sending out, let's say, a weekly newsletter, maybe just hint at trying to send that out, attach that on Remind, and see how many more parents are engaged with that communication and engagement being sent home. But that's a great question.
Awesome.
Yeah, I want to open it up to questions now before we close out.
I know. Unfortunately, we only have a couple of minutes, and there are a ton of questions waiting here for us. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to every single one of them, but don't worry, we will follow up with you after the presentation to answer some of those if we can't get to them now. One other question that we had, gosh, there are a handful. It's hard to choose exactly which one to start with. One question that Juan asked is, can you repeat what you said about privacy compliance? You know, what are some of the protocols for data privacy on Remind?
Yeah, so Remind's privacy policies have been certified by iKeepSafe. That's a third-party reviewer of educational technology tools for compliance with things like COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, as well as FERPA, and even specific state regulations as well. We really take privacy very seriously here. You can read more about our policies and practices on the trust and safety page of remind.com and reach out to us as well for more information there.
Definitely. Only have time for one more question, and this has come up a couple times. You know, what is the cost? What is the pricing structure for the Remind plan?
Great question. It really depends on the number of students in your school or district and the extent of your rollout. We're really happy to follow up with pricing. So just make sure to complete the exit poll and we can work with you and get you a quote right away very, very quickly. So great question.
Great, yeah, good one to end on. Without further ado, I'm gonna launch that exit poll.